Good to go? Okay, let's get this meeting going. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Jen, will you call roll call?
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Len Tootie,
Here.
Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Mack, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo, Mike Delson.
I'm here. Thank you, Jen. Well, as always, let's start out with the prayer, and if I could ask Ellie, if you would do the honor this morning. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, first and foremost, we give thanks for all of the beautiful blessings in our lives. Please help us to be mindful of how fortunate we are to have our family, our children, our elders, our those who watch over us. Please be with us today as we make the decisions on behalf of our membership. Be in our hearts and our minds, and help us just to make really good decisions. We ask that you watch over our elders and our children and protect our law enforcement and military and doctors and hospital personnel and all of those who seek to take care of us. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Ellie. All right, first order of business is our minutes from our last meeting. I think it's December 5th for your consideration. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the first page in Len's motion to appoint James Bible and SK Business Service, it says Len Tootie to appoint James Bible. That should be appoint, not just point.
Good catch. Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Len.
I'll be on page 3, where I was talking about the tribal member's house that burned. It states it's in Elmo. It should be in Ebro. Jennifer, do we have an update on the Tony Barnaby issue that we discussed on Tuesday?
No, I'm still getting that back up. I'll have it before the day's over, before the council meeting is over.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carol.
Maybe if I could clarify my motion on the part B. Says, I want to make sure there's a review. Because I think there's still options to look at. So the motion would be for a 90-day timeline to produce for review and approval all eligible members for Part B reimbursement at some level. Yeah. Because I still think there's some discussions that probably need to
We're
be
gonna
had.
do the Carol, Patty talked to me this morning, and so they'll be working on it, and
Okay,
we'll have it before the January Health Committee.
okay, so does the motion?
It
that I
works.
just- Okay,
It works, Carol. Thank you. Any other comments or additions?
No motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Len to approve the October or December 5th Tribal Council minutes with corrections. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. All right, we have today's agenda. 2 walk-ins. Okay, is there any other additions to the, Ellie has one? Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? I will give you an update on the hearing yesterday. Go ahead, Jen.
I have an update, but I'll do it later
Okay,
on the election stuff.
okay, thank you. All right, I would accept a motion to approve today's agenda with additions. Motion by Jennifer, second by Mike. Any further discussion? See none, all's in favor? Unanimous? Okay, let's take care of our first walk-in. Oh, I do. David. Come on up, David. David Wall is looking for hunter assistance. I think this is the same as last year, Dave? That we approved last year? It's the same one you approved last year, right? Okay. All right, you got it listed on your application for 1 month. Go ahead, Carol. He's my brother-in-law. Uncle-in-law, I should say. I consider him a brother because he's same age as us. Okay, motion by Carol, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Jimmy? 8, 4, 1 opposed. Terry? Motion passed.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
we have tribal members that there is tribal assistance being offered to go with these people that need help. And I'd like that to at least be exercised. And if that doesn't work, then we can come back to these decisions.
Thank you, Terry. I'm not terribly clear on what you're referencing, though. Could you explain what that would be?
We've mentioned in the past that we have hunters that are available to assist in hunters assistance, that are tribal members that would go with these that have needs. And I'd like that to at least be exercised. If it's not working, then we can move to the next stage.
Okay, I'll remind NRD to look at, typically what it's set up for is those landowners that have depredation issues. And then we identify some tribal hunters that could go do that.
And
Some of those hunters would hunt for other people. I think that's what you're referring to.
we have Rich on.
Yeah,
He's on.
okay. So we'll try to expand that. Make sure, Terry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just, they say there's a list of hunters that will assist, that I've been told. And they will go with these individuals that have needs.
Good, Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So Terry, I'm glad you brought that up because, these types of requests have come up over and over and we're being questioned by the culture committees on their concern that when we're allowing these types of circumstances and situations that is jeopardizing our treaty rights when we are starting to allow non-members to hunt with our members. So I just wanted to mention that and I think that's something that we should we need to have a discussion again with the culture committees about looking at this policy on these types of approvals. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Lynn. Go, Carol.
Lynn said hunt. These individuals aren't allowed to hunt with them.
They can't discharge a firearm, no.
Yeah, they
assist.
accompany them.
Yes,
Yeah.
same as the buffalo hunt.
But they cannot be on, we don't allow.
Yeah, just in this hunter assist format. But we'll bring it back up and have a good shakedown with it. Okay, next walk-in.
Art Trahan.
Art, come on up.
Morning, Art.
Yes, Grex. Yeah, push your button, so, yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this request that I have is for Kyle here to go ahead and hunt for his grandma Donna. He's the only one in their household that hunts, and I told her I'd bring him in because she had to work today. So, but she wants him to get them some buffalo, 1 or 2 buffalo if he can. And he's been through the class and stuff yesterday, went through all that yesterday. So, and then he would be accompanied with most likely me, maybe one of my brothers and or Jim Durglow. So, and we would take him and he could get the buffalo for them and he's 14, so he's just not quite old enough to just do it straight up. So,
You know, I think that's great. That's wonderful. I would entertain a motion to approve him as long as he's accompanied by an adult
yep, he would be.
tribal member, CSKT tribal member hunter.
Can't drive yet anyway, so he's.
Yeah, right. He's got to go with somebody. Hitchhike.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by, who was it? Carol. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous?
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank
And then
you.
I did have one item for you, Terry. I went and checked on the pile that you were talking about. If it's the one that's down where the old pole yard was there, there's too much stuff in there that we can't burn. So what I would suggest is you guys need to just get a few community members and just burn it on March 1st. I mean, we can't do it because of what the material that's in there. That's it's not legal for us to do so. There's treated posts and things like that in there. I went and looked at it.
Thanks, Art, for looking into that. Yeah, I'll, Lands is coming in there. I'll talk to Mark
Yeah,
to see.
and just tell them on March 1st, just go fire it off and just have people there to watch it, so don't move around. And it looks like it would hold in place, so.
Okay.
But otherwise we would have no problem with it, but we've already turned down several others. We even had one of our project areas, we had to basically tell the people quit putting stuff in there so we could actually get it gone, so.
Okay.
But that's, it's kind of a legal thing. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble over it. So if somebody gets sick from the fumes or anything like that, so that's kind of where that's at.
Appreciate that, Mark. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Art. Thanks for following up on that too. What's going on here, huh? Okay, next up, we have Ellie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give an update. Monday and Tuesday, I was at the Housing Authority's Board of Commissioners policy review meeting at Quatucknuck. And some of the topics, we discussed the public water sewer system plan of operations. We talked about a transfer policy, and we passed a resolution to place a hold on all non-emergency transfers between units in order to catch up on the backlog of the vacant units. When we do a transfer, the home that a person moved out of then has to be cleaned, and it leaves that vacant list longer. And so we put a hold on those temporarily until those get caught up. We talked about the travel policy, general office procedures, occupancy policy. We're going to have further discussions on the tenant-based assistance program. We talked about the vacant units, and over income discussions. Some rents went up to market rent if you make more money, but instead of hitting people too hard with a huge jump, we modified smaller payments. So over the course of the year, you kind of bump up every 3 or 4 months to get people used to what that new rent looks like. We also talked about the 2022 strategic plan. We reviewed that, made some plans for moving forward. There was a lot of conversation about ADP and the struggles that housing continues to have with ADP. And then we also made a plan for housing to come into council quarterly and start doing quarterly reports. And they'll pick different departments. Maybe one time they'll talk about the vacant units and explain how that process works. And another time, maybe water and sewer will come in. So they want to be more engaged with council on a quarterly basis to help alleviate any questions that may be coming up for them.
Thank you, Ellie. Any questions for Ellie? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I'd like to see the strategic plan. And I think that it would be nice that if the council could concur with the plan, because usually we don't even know what's going on unless, and I think the quarterly reports would be good. And then also what was said about the vacant houses. What I would like to see, Ellie, and I don't even know if this is possible, but I would like a list of these vacant houses and where they're at in the communities. And, you know, I'm around, so I plan on keeping track of if they're getting done, because quite frankly, I don't know that they're getting done. And so now we're in this other housing project with the tiny homes. And I'm almost thinking water and sewer, we need to look at whether they continue to hold on to that. Or do we pull water and sewer back for tiny home projects? I mean, that's just things I'm thinking about. But that was recommended to me. Maybe we need to look at that.
Good questions, Carol. And so the strategic plan was of 2022. It's one where we had mediators come in and kind of do the strategic planning. So there is a large report, and I'll make sure you get that. Okay. And then on the vacant unit report, we went over that in great detail, what communities, how many, the bedroom sizes in each community, why they're pending. And there is movement. Sometimes it doesn't look like it because one may get remediated and somebody moves in, another one has been evicted and needs to be cleaned. So the list is kind of, the number is going down though, even despite that, the number is going down. And so they want to come in January, mid to late January, and go over that in detail with you, show you what's in what community and why sometimes it looks like there's no movement.
So what is the total?
I want to say there was just over 50 now.
Okay, because it seems to move around, but I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, and a lot of those, sometimes on the vacant unit list, there's the new ones that just haven't been their notice of availability, but they're still on the list, but they're ready to go. And so
I know I hear of a lot of transfers, and I think that'll help the situation.
Yeah.
Like you guys are managing those for other people on the list to actually get in.
yeah, and sometimes they're made available and we may see them and the community is empty, but maybe the unit's been offered. That person has so much time to either accept it or deny it. If they deny it, they get, then it goes to the next person and there's a time. So it's not that they're just sitting vacant.
Okay.
Offers have been made and sometimes it's just waiting for them, the possible tenant to accept an
The
offer
one-
or not.
The one I've been watching is, it's probably 2.5 years since this lady passed. No rehab on the inside, so it's not even close to being offered. And it's an elder duplex, so just by,
Okay, and that, so they will bring that list in January and go over it in the detail that we got. Yep.
Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was talking to my son yesterday too, and he was out there cleaning them houses yesterday, and they cleaned 9 of them out yesterday. And he said they still have quite a few more to do yet, that really needs to be cleaned out. And a lot of these homes gotta be gone in and a lot of repairs gotta be done to them too. So, he said it'll probably be a while before, before anybody's allowed to be moved into these places. He said, but there's a lot of damage in some of them, and, so it's gonna take some time, he said, and depends on who they get in there for contractors and whatnot, if housing don't have the people to do it. He said they'll have to get some contractors to go in there. I guess they got on Sid over the other day, that's what he said, and Sid had them out there yesterday, cleaning them all out yesterday, so, but they got 9 of them cleaned out yesterday.
I used to do those with Tom. My husband used to contract and do those homes, so I know what's entailed in them, but there's some that aren't as bad and you can clean them, I think, and just get them prepared. But I'm glad it's all being looked at, because sooner we get people in, the happier I'll be. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Ellen.
One more reminder, they also asked that when we get housing issues, there is a grievance request form on the SCAHA website, and it's really easy to locate when you go to SCAHA. It's on the front page under forms. But if we have folks fill that out, they can do it online. It submits automatically online, and that would allow them to go to the board for any. So.
Thanks, Ellie. Okay, yep, go ahead, Jen.
Can I give my quick?
You betcha.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you guys an email. I just want to thank Rick because he went along with my idea to go to the communities and me and Jay Blue sit there to give out absentee ballots. It was a pretty good success yesterday in Mission. We got way over 100. And today we're going to Arley. Well, Jay Blue's down there. Then afterwards, I'll be down after council and we're going to go knock on doors. Yesterday, we went to Tribal House. We went to the community center. We knocked on doors. We hit the elders meeting, and we let Kootenai Culture know that we'll be there Monday. So they're going to try and get a lot of people there. But I'll have the email of the schedule so you guys know if you guys talk to people or they ask you when the next schedule is. I'm also going to put it on everyone email. But Rick enjoyed what we came back with. So I just wanted to let you guys know. And we have Erica, and she has her staff that she's doing. We contracted with Erica, and they're like hitting the jails, the rest homes. They're gonna go to the elders. If you guys have names and addresses of elders, they're going this weekend to literally go to the elders' home and do the absentee ballot with them. So I just wanted to give an update and
Would they go to St. Pat's Hospital?
yeah, they're going to all of them, all the ones that I can tell them to go to St. Pat's and probably St. Luke's.
Yeah.
I'll tell them about those two as well, and we're hitting like SKT, SKEE, SAHA, SKC, all the entities too that possibly can't get here or forget by Saturday the 16th. But I'm just glad I asked him if it would be okay, and he was okay with it. And you need to let them know that we actually bring the locked up box, and as soon as me or Jay Blue gets a ballot, we stick it right in there. We're not holding it. It's not going anywhere. They're the ones that have to put it in the box or lick it and put it in there. I just want to let you guys know that too for the situation.
Go ahead, Carol.
I kind of chewed on Len a little bit for not getting this approval from the election board. I think, when you start dealing with ballots and all of that stuff, it should have been ran through the election board to make sure that any approval of, I don't know, the ballots and the process. But I think Jen's got it totally thought out, and I think it's perfect because we're actually getting additional voters, but I just wanted to let council know, I just think it should have been at least ran by the election board, so we would have had knowledge, and I read it on an email. But I was glad it was being done because we sure didn't have enough last election, and I was embarrassed about it. Glad we're doing something different. So I'm not chewing on you. I'm just,
That's why I wanted to let you guys know that we actually have the locked box.
yeah.
And
I
most of
agree.
them are putting it in the box themselves to know that it's locked, and we can't get in there. I know, it's just, you guys will get the questions of it, and I just wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I mean, the services that we offer right here, it's just really an expansion of that to other government buildings and then to facilities where people are trapped. So it's an expansion of what I would call the norm. So I don't think it's that risky. I think it's actually a real nice service to provide people. As long as the chain of custody is tight and not broken, that would be the only issue, I think. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what would make it special that we'd only have one spot where they could come vote. We should have it in every community, to provide that kind of service. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, just as long as it's done at a time. I went to room 563 last night at St. Pat's and he was sleeping. So I don't want to have that ballot just sitting there. So make sure that it's timely.
Yep. Okay, I wanted to give you an update on the Environmental Quality Council hearing that was yesterday. So that occurred. I did get in. They didn't send me an invite link. How did you get it? Harrison? Yeah. Well, and I emailed, we conversed emails yesterday. The day before. So I thought, well, I'm going to be out waiting for my invite link. And then I emailed right before the meeting with nothing. Ghosted me. But yeah, so we were able to get in. So essentially it was a tie vote to support the initiative. So being a tie means a no vote. So the Environmental Quality Council did not endorse the initiative, which is good. But he'll still carry on. He's still going to go forward once he got the other two approvals at the state government level. He's just got to go get his signatures. So he has to get about 30,000 signatures out there, a certain percentage from a certain number of voting districts that he'll be required to do. So interesting comments, overwhelming support against the initiative, all the comments. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From what I heard, the folks that were actually supporting it, besides the two proponents, were really arguing for private property rights, and hunting is not a private property right. And so I don't know how they come off with that, but that's what they were arguing, that these are private property owners and they should have the right. Private property doesn't give that right. They should know that.
That's the challenge in that group. Hey, yeah, sorry, we're in open session, so I can't comment about the committee members, but that was predictable. But I thought it went well. John Harrison did a wonderful job. Jennifer did a wonderful job. I had a list of stuff, and then everybody already talked about them. So then I was just trying to think, okay, what am I going to say? Because you had to bring up new material, And so it was. People covered it very well. I thought it was wonderful. But the hypocrisy of it is that the biggest hypocrisy, if it's something that comes to bear, is that they want to come in our boundaries and establish a hunting right on private land. And when we go outside of our boundaries into the bigger boundaries of the state, we do not have that right to exercise our hunting rights on private land. So it's really a double standard, extremely, I'm going to certainly point that out if this moves forward and makes it to the ballot. But, that's amazing to me. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, let's just open all, member hunting on all property on the res.
We have that authority to be able to do that. So we've given that, in the regulations, we've allowed people to post their lands closed, but yeah, other reservations, they don't do that. Other reservations, in other states, they determine that open and unclaimed land is everything, as it was the day the treaty was signed. And so when you go to Washington or Oregon or Idaho, it's a different story. You get to hunt on private property, and nobody can stop you within your area of use. You can go on any private land if it's posted no hunting and hunt anywhere, and the states support that. So Montana is unique in its interpretation. It's of what is open and unclaimed land. So there'll be all kinds of different discussions that'll come forward if this actually is something that gets passed by the citizens of Montana. But I have a lot of confidence that we won't. Citizens, the sportsmen, will not allow us to become Texas. And you know what happens is when you do this kind of a measure, then the private landowner basically owns that wildlife on their property, and they don't let anybody else hunt it but themselves when they're granted this kind of a privilege. So the sportsmen should be able to really come forward and knock this thing down. Open. All right, let's do our first agenda item. Unless there's any questions, any comments? Anybody else that, Mike, Jennifer, you have anything? Okay. Yeah, Bing? No, it's within, they have to have a license, so it would be like they'd be able to use their general A tag for deer, you know, that kind of thing. Their general cow tag or elk tag, that type of stuff. Supposedly they would be within the managed there. That's the difficulty, is that we're not part of it, and we're the wildlife managers surrounding this and encompassing the reservation. So part of your recipe on how your quotas would be the resource manager would identify that. What's the carrying capacity? How many animals you would harvest so you don't harm the population? If there's disease outbreaks, all those considerations would have to come from us, the tribe, because we're the wildlife managers on the res. So the state commission or those hunters have no way. That's the other weak thing about the law that we'd sue on real easy. There's no way that this is coordinated or done in a normal way, which is that's the violation of the federal aid, sports aid. That's the violation of Pittman-Robertson funding, is that you have to have wildlife management agencies manage the wildlife and license them in a sustainable way so you're not wiping out species. And if there's no coordination with the wildlife manager, which is us, on private land on a reservation, because we're not the ones licensing them, we're not the ones setting the quota, and we don't even, not in the bill to even coordinate with us, then that's a huge weak link in any appropriate fish and wildlife management. No, they would have to, yeah, they would have to get their normal license they could buy if they lived anywhere else. And then, but the gray areas of who's the landowner? Is it every person that's listed on the deed? You know, it's a corporation. Everybody that's a member of a corporation. I mean, who's entitled to that privilege to always hunt on that property? And that's not outlined in the draft initiative either. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just thinking, I do have one issue, and it's the Hot Springs Savage issue. There's been rumors that Hot Springs was thinking about changing their logo again, and I stopped by and actually talked to the superintendent yesterday, and that is all it is rumor. It's all hearsay stuff. There's no truth to it. I guess somebody in one of the meetings mentioned their logo, and that's about all that ever happened. So we can stop that rumor from flying if you hear it. It's not true.
Okay, thanks, Mike. The demons. Okay, Randy, come on up. Good morning, sir.
SQX, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. This morning, I bring forth the Wilmington Trust Volkswagen settlement final allocation. There was some money left over after 4 rounds, and the trustee come up with a plan on how to fairly allocate that. They split the money up between 119 tribes who were participants and beneficiaries of this trust. The tribe's allocation is $78,607. These funds will be used to finalize the purchases that we intended to make. There was, as everyone knows, there was delays because of the pandemic and parts became scarce. We've purchased 2 semis for the college student driving program, and we have 2 more semis to purchase. We've accepted quotes for 2 Mack trucks, and they have notified us that they will start assembly in April. And so these delays have cut into the original quotes that we got, and so we are paying much more than what we originally had agreed upon. And so this will help us to finalize the work that needs to be done.
Thanks, Randy. Any questions for Randy on that? Go ahead, Ellie.
Motion to accept the final Volkswagen allocation of $78,607.25.
Motion by Ellie to accept the final VW allocation funding. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you. There's one little item with this is on December 20th, the trustee will call, and hopefully I'll be there at work on that day, because for some reason it's part of their process. They need to contact the tribe and the designated representative, make sure that that person is who they said they were and are acting on behalf of the tribe, kind of like I guess like a Popeye situation. I am who I said I am, and that's all I am. But thank you.
Trust but verify. Yes. Thank you, Randy. Okay, next we have the resolution approvals for the appellate court. Abby.
Morning, council.
Good morning.
Starts out on page 18 is the contract for Rob McDonald to serve as Associate Justice for 3 years. And then the resolution is on page 21.
Motion by Carol to approve the resolution for contract for judicial services for Robert McDonald. Second by Mike. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you. And the second one is for Greg Dupuy, the judicial contract for 3 years. The contract's on page 22 and the resolution on 25.
Motion by Ellie, approve the contract resolution for Greg Dupuy. Second by Terry. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Oh, wow, we're ahead of schedule.
I'm trying to get Janet on, so if you guys want to take a quick break. I'll
Donut
tell her-
break?
I'll tell her 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but if we could go in executive session real quick, I needed to remind myself of one thing. I mentioned go into open session.
Janet's screen share is available as well.
Thank you. So I'm sharing my screen. We're starting on page 26 in your packets. I think other staff will be joining as they can. So I've been meeting with the executive team, and a few other individuals, who have, interest in what goes on out at Kicking Horse. We've met 3 times now, and as I, updated you in October, there are groundwater issues and the old sewage treatment lagoons at Kicking Horse, and it's recommended that we replace those with a new system. And so we needed to develop a master plan for the proposed long-range uses at the center in order to determine wastewater capacities and complete the engineering work needed. We started with the draft master plan that Rick Enyas brought to council in 2019. And then we presented some updates to you in October of this year. And we have the proposed site and building uses shown on the attached map. The following paragraphs give you a little bit of description as to what's been done with some of the buildings so far, such as new roofs and HVAC systems. We also went through a list of the number of employees that are either working out at the center or are projected to be working out at the center, as well as other uses such as the fitness center use. We're looking at, preservation, 16 staff, Charcusta 6 staff, food sovereignty up to 25 in the future, because we need to accommodate for all future employees as well in this master plan. Natural Resources is proposing a new building out there for the Division of Engineering and Water Resources, and they're projecting 75 staff. Property and Supply, 22 staff, Central Mail 5, Switchboard 3, Maintenance 2, Drug Task Force up to 5, Resource Management, and that includes Tony Incashola and his administration staff. That's up to 6. And then the bus barn, Two Eagle Bus Barn would like to locate out there with 1 staff and have a power washing station. We're looking at up to 28 potential households. Right now I have 27, but there is an old foundation that John Nice mentioned has a sewer and water stub out. So we could plan for up to 28 homes out there. One thing that the committee mentioned was due to vandalism that's been occurring out at Kicking Horse at night and on the weekends, the staff recommends that CSKT employees or others who have been screened reside at the home sites. They do not recommend housing for the homeless out at Kicking Horse due to their need to be near services in town. Groceries, some don't have transportation, and Kicking Horse is a ways out. So again, the committee felt that we should not be putting homeless out at Kicking Horse. We also discussed who should manage the lots. Skaha mentioned that Lands is currently managing those, and they cannot help due to compliance. They cannot help with compliance due to BIA or tribal regulations, according to Mark Couture. Also in 2019, council agreed to charge market rental rates for the houses out there. And my understanding is they're renting for between $700 and $800, the ones that are currently in place. I know that there's one home site lease lot where the individual owns her home. And I think she's just paying the standard $25 a year rental rate. The lots are fairly small, and I'll show you a map of those in a second. They can only accommodate smaller 1 to 3 bedroom homes. It's really important that we make sure that those homes will fit within the footprint of these smaller lots. They're only about 1/5 of an acre in size. And then the commercial kitchen, I received some numbers from Dana Huoncorn as far as the number of meals they're preparing, and I'll be working with her to get a final update. So let's see. So she's got quite a bit of information that I included in this report to you. But one of the things that we wanted to note was John Nice said that EPA recommended replacing the pump house and the chlorination building for the water system. They're overdue for replacement. Another question we had is, should we add the center roads to the BIA road system for maintenance? This would help with long-term costs for maintaining the center property, but those roads would then be public roads if you decided you wanted those to be on the BIE road system. So anyone could technically drive out there. And then, you know, staff also mentioned they did not want to use the ball field area. And we want to delineate some parking areas. And I'm going to show you the map that we developed. It's basically the same map that we've been looking at. We went ahead and typed in the changes. So everything in black here is when the center was in operation. And then everything in red is now the new, they are all the new uses for all of those buildings. Let's see. Housing lots 32, 35 through 38 are pending asbestos assessment, abatement, and demolition. But those lots still have, and then 5 potential small lots could be added here. And if I go to the next slide, previous slide, you can kind of see, this is where the dorms are, these 2 big buildings. And then you can see the home site lots as we've kind of drawn boundaries around the existing lots. So this house is currently inhabited. This house is currently inhabited. And this house is inhabited. The rest are in some stage of demolition. And then this trailer is in place here. We've got a trailer here. We've got a camper here and a double wide modular here. So basically, so you can see kind of the lot configuration. Again, they're about 1/10 of an acre in size. I mean, 1/5 of an acre in size, excuse me. And we tried to keep them the same size as what these lots were already laid out as. And we had the funding at the time to put in stub outs for all of these lots. So we needed to kind of get lot dimensions in place in order to get that worked through. So here we go to this particular map now. What maintenance is recommending is that the small building number 17 be demolished. It was the teaching kitchen for Kicking Horse, and it's not in good shape. They also recommend demolishing building number 12, which was, I guess, the female dorm. And they would like to put the new building for the 75 employees for the Division of Engineering and Water Resources and that spot. And then they would like to demo half of this dorm and gut the other half and use that for storage. So that's what they're recommending. Pretty much everything is self-explanatory with the exception of that. I put those notes in here too, if you can see. They're recommending a new roof too, for the half of the building that they maintain, that they retain here. And then parking would probably go in back here. And then we'd also delineate the parking areas for some of the other buildings. This is where the food sovereignty garden is and where they propose to expand it. There's some buried metal over here. There's a drainage area over here. A lot of this area is piped. The drainage from this area is piped and comes along here and drains over to here. And this is where the approximate sewer line crossing is right now to go over to the lagoons. So with that, I can stay on this slide to give you a little more time to look at it. But I think one of the biggest issues would be, if we could get action on proceeding with this particular plan after you have a few minutes to look at it. And again, the biggest issues would be demolishing the dorms, or at least one of the dorms, and rebuilding a new building for engineering and water resources.
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Wasn't there a field trip out to the dorms?
My understanding is Terry Pitts went
Janet,
out.
I'm asking the council, excuse me.
Excuse me, sorry.
There was, Terry,
And
some people went out. on
I
a
know,
field trip.
but what was your take on it?
My take
Yeah. Oh, go ahead,
was that
Terry.
it would take a lot of work to fix up the dorms. There's parts of the ceiling that were falling out. I don't know that. It would have been impossible, but it would be a large undertaking.
Terry?
Yeah, my take was, that dorm 1 and 2 could be cleaned up. And there was quite a bit of, the structure seemed pretty sound. I know they needed some cleanup at the entrance there and stuff, but there's a lot of rooms there that give people privacy. I think it's, and I know that John mentioned that with students who were in there, the way the heating system and the stuff, it passed inspection. So it was kind of indicating that it probably still would be viable to use. I just figured for the price of one mini home, you could have that place cleaned up and could offer. That was just my take. Mike might have a different take.
Thank you. In what I saw, it seemed that the foundation was very solid. I asked if the roofs leaked at all, and it didn't seem like anybody said that the roofs were in a problem. And the walls all seem structurally sound. I don't know what kind of insulation there was. That, as Terry said, there'd be a lot of cleanup, but that's all I noticed. And yeah, I'm not a contractor, so I can't really speak to that, but things look fairly solid.
I would
But-
like, if we're gonna make these decisions, and I'm glad council went out and looked, because we all kind of thought that it was still a possibility to use those, and so it seems like we would need an engineering and constructual person to look at it and give us that decision. And maybe we did get that, but still, I think there's still a possibility. And I'm not sure where John gets his expertise. I know he's done a lot of buildings and stuff for us, but it just seems like we need to have a little more information. But I appreciate you guys going out. I could have went out.
Go ahead, Janet.
I could, my thought was to ask Jacola's structural engineer to come and look at it again, but when he looked at the dorms the first time, this was, oh gosh, when we were first looking at redoing the sewer and water lines a few years ago out at Kicking Horse. He, the big concern was the water lines are leaking. And you can't really bring those through the roof because or through the ceiling, like bringing some of the pipe up and above the walls, and then dropping back down to service like the bathrooms that are in the front portion of the dorms. Because there's red iron, so the support beams for the roof are that red iron, and he was saying that is a difficulty, but I think John's biggest concern was the leaky pipes, and also poor insulation. And Lisa, did you want to weigh in on other things that John had mentioned?
Yeah, I'm here with John. We are having it. It has been tested for asbestos. We haven't got the test results back, and then just the piping itself is overhead. And so that's not ideal, especially if you end up having leaks. So it would take some significant work to redo the water and the sewer to make it adequate for use. Because right now they're running, I believe, through the ceiling.
And there was another issue with the way the roof is built on those where the water is draining off toward the sidewalks. I'll show you where. In between each of these sections, the roofs are draining down onto the sidewalks and causing ice problems in the winter. So that was another issue.
Didn't you mention something about the drainage there before?
the drainage on that, coming down that you're talking about, Janet, is, was always a problem. Because the ice buildup right there and going out those doors, in the wintertime was really a problem because all the water just came right down on the sidewalk. The rain gutters that were there weren't really efficient enough to get, when the ice would build up in them, there was no place for the water to go except for back underneath the, tin that was on the roof and inside the building. And next thing you know, we had the, ceiling tiles inside of the, hallway there, just inside the door, collapsing because they were all getting all wet and, they would just collapse and go inside. But that was always an issue for that, those dorms right there in the hallway for that water to back up. In the wintertime, it was really a mess with the ice. But other than that, you know, and like I stated before, water behind dorm 2 would run down from dorm 3 there and be right there at the bottom of in the back of the dorm on the east side of the dorm there. There would be water settling right there in the behind the dorm. So I didn't know whether or not that water more than likely did go into the dorm, but we never knew about it because of the concrete slab that was poured there for the rooms and whatnot for the dorms. But, you know, listening to what you're talking about here with the ceiling and stuff caving, all I'd say is the ceiling tile that is put up there in sections, you know, and it doesn't take much to replace a ceiling tile. But, you know, it's just the idea of just listening to what is being said here about those dorms is, especially dorm 1 and 2. You know, they were probably the best 2 dorms we had on the center. You know, in dorm 3 up there, that was, and 4, they were male dorms, you know, so you can kind of figure out what they were like, you know, but dorm 3 had heavy equipment operators in it, and they took a lot of pride in their dorm, and they probably had the best male dorm on center and probably one of the top dorms of the month. Every time we had a dorm inspection on them, they pretty much had one of the better dorms on center. But you know, it's dorm 1 and 2, like you stated, you know, dorm 1 especially, they really kept that place really special and nice down there, you know, and those dorms, that dorm there was immaculate, kept by those women, you know, that were in there. And it's hard to believe that, you know, just listening to what's being said here about those dorms, it's just hard to believe what the way that the conditions are and letting them let it deteriorate like that over the years since they've been gone. But we've asked before, you know, if it could be used for housing or homeless and whatnot, you know, and when we had COVID and everything else, we asked for that to be used, but maintenance just wouldn't jar loose and let us go ahead and use it. But, you know, it's probably sure there's going to be some cost. That's if they're going to be repaired, there's going to probably be some cost with this letting them deteriorate like that. So I guess probably it'd be nice to have a contractor to go in there and look at to see how bad the problems were in there, just so the council would know what they're going to have to deal with.
Thank you, Bing.
So I'm hearing that you'd like to have, you know, maybe a structural engineer or an architect, someone along those lines to come and do an inspection and let you know what it would take to upgrade them. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that consensus from council?
Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Did Cola do the Ronan Center?
I don't know.
Whoever did the Ronan Center, I don't want them doing this center because of the roof. But I really like the Ronan Tribal Health Facility. But yeah, I would like to have somebody come in and what if council said, yeah, I think we're gonna keep these buildings. Give us an estimate on what it's gonna cost to upgrade them and get them up to a standard where we can use them again. Give us that estimate instead of telling us why we can't because there's pipes up above and. I mean, I'd like to hear that figure. Maybe it's not even doable, but at least I think we'd have a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I don't know about an upgrade, but at least habitable. What would make them be able to be used? What would that cost? In comparison to what it's gonna cost to demolish and build something comparable?
So the new construction you're talking about for the irrigation project rebuild staff, is there available footprint here other than over the top of one of these dorm footprints? Is there space to build if you were to not tear down and remove?
To not tear down the dorms, you mean?
Yeah.
Possibly. The Dewar team is currently still in the initial kind of how much square footage do they need, and they're looking at a couple sites. This is one in Ronan, at that master plan site is another that they're looking at. So I don't think we have a real answer to that right now. That question.
But they have money to build.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of their money to build would include the tear down.
You could justify any site prep work.
Yeah, question that's always kind of bugged me about this site is in managing the sewer and water is why isn't it under housing authority?
I can answer that
Yep.
if I could. So they are already way over capacity as far as staff goes. They said if they took this on, they'd have to hire someone else and they'd need funding to help with that. They are managing, gosh, seems to me it's like 22 water systems and multiple sewage treatment systems, and they just don't have enough staff to do it all. And so I've asked them before if they would take this on, and they said not unless they can hire more staff and get the funding to do that.
Okay. Carol?
Is there a reason why the garden wouldn't be closer to the water source of the reservoir? I mean, the garden's right there out in the front, and it seems like that could be used for additional housing, but they put it right there. Seems like it would have been better down there where a water source is, so they can use sprinklers or whatever.
Right.
Is it? Okay.
So right now they're proposing, if we look further on here, they're proposing a new water line to come in here and they're looking for funding for that. And that would come off of their current source right here. Right now they're running hoses. But we could talk more with them about that. If we go back to this map, I can show you the pump house is right here. There's some vacant land here. It's not quite as big as the garden site that they have. And then going back to this map, we're not sure exactly where this buried metal is. So I think, what they were looking at is, this was just handy at the time and they've got the fencing in and everything, but I'm sure that could be moved if it had to be. I don't know if this area back here would work. We could talk about that with food sovereignty.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of like Carol's idea. I don't know if getting the right person in there. I don't want some high-end person coming in and looking at high costs and to rehab, but I know when I went in there, I thought, wow, if I was homeless, I'd be happy to come to this place. You know, there's a lot of rooms and there's enough room for privacy. And yeah, you can engage with other people. They've got kind of a center part where you could have pool tables and different stuff where people could go to a TV room. But I thought John stated that there was some work on the water system. They did do some work underneath a slab out there. So I'm not sure at what level that, but if I was homeless, I'd be tickled pink to have a place to go because it's big enough that you could have your own privacy. You could have your own room and yeah, you could engage, especially dorms 1 and 2. And then I was thinking about the cost of tearing that down and then where are you going to go with that? The materials, you know, we can't even take care of our own waste products. But that's just my thought on it. I just thought Carol was commenting on some good thoughts. I just getting the right person in there that was be realistic. I know when I got married, we lived in a $750 trailer house and we thought we were pretty cool because we had our own place, but it's sufficed. And the leaking problem out there, what I like too is right across the street, you have the food service place, which is pretty convenient. But anyway, that's my comment.
Thank you, Terry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chairman. I like Carol's suggestion about getting an estimate. Let's just see if they fix it up, how much it would cost compared to the cost of rebuilding. So, you know, because ultimately that's what it's going to come down to is the numbers. But I like things that pay for themselves. We're an executive, right? Okay.
No.
Oh, we're not?
No.
No. It's okay. I can save that comment for later, but I think that, you know, I think about this use of space, and if we turned one of the dorms into a hostel, because then it could pay for itself and reserve part of the space for emergencies. So we just had a tribal member whose house burned down. And we were scrambling, where are we going to put this person? This person doesn't have anything. They need a place to go right now until we find someplace else for them to go. And during fire season, this happens every summer that I've been on, well, I've only been on council for 2 years, but it happens every year. People are displaced. They don't have any place to go. And the hotels are filled in the summer. It's hard to find places for people to go. So if some of the places were reserved for emergency situations of whatever, and then some of them were used as a hostel where people could rent people passing through, because hostels are less maintenance than a hotel, it could help pay for itself. Because that's another struggle that we have is creating a program, and then how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? And something like that could help offset the cost of the maintenance of the building, have people there and generate some revenue. And I don't know what kind of revenue those kinds of establishments make. It would take some sort of a study, but I would be in favor of something that creates space for people, but also generates some revenue to help pay for it. Thank you.
In regards to placing a division that's growing and needs space, is that assistance available for replacement of the sewer lagoon also?
I'm not aware. I mean, my understanding is that water compact money couldn't be spent until all the irrigation project money was obligated, or so I don't know.
Janet, I can address that.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, short answer is yes, it'd be no different than bare land anywhere else. If it's necessary for the establishment and use of that structure for the administration of the water compact and all the things necessary to carry it out. There is absolutely an easy connection there.
Well, given the community nature of the site where we have tribal health and skate park, we're gonna put in, and the nature of that area, I would strongly recommend that the expansion of Dewar happen out here at Kicking Horse. I would utilize that as best to fulfill the needs for the overall site at Kicking Horse. There's a lot of investment here, and so, but that doesn't mean you need to tear down a building to do it. I just think there's probably space here to provide for Dewar and help with the overall management of the entire compound out there, Kicking Horse compound. So I would just encourage that and to make sure that that's a fulfilled need, and the opportunity for funding is to help manage that site, because we have to do it anyway for Dewar. They need to have capacity to implement the betterment project of the irrigation system. Yeah, Terry?
Thank you. The other thing I thought, it's a ways out there, but it'd be nice to have an electric van or bus, have an Uber driver, and every few hours drive into town and wait for people to shop and do the thing, and then go back and have that go back and forth several times during the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Quirky's program can service out there. They probably can. I concur. You know, when you talk about buildings, you got a good foundation, you got a good roof. I don't know. It's really hard pressed to tear something down when you have a lot of other needs that might fit into that space. It's just a matter of finding that remodel money. But yeah, that's me.
I went through a walk through there with when Kicking Horse was still there, and the Fed that came in and looked at the dorm, he was so impressed about the way that was set up in the beds, and how many people they could put in one of those rooms because of how they built it. And he said, this is the most unique style, and I've never seen this before. And so I was pretty impressed with the way Kicking Horse was set up in those rooms and stuff. So how many people you could house in each place, and just the uniqueness of the beds, because they're built into the wall, and then the cupboards and all of that. It was pretty cool.
Go ahead, Len.
This is definitely a tribal resource that will benefit the membership. So I strongly support any kind of renovation just to get it usable again, because as we've mentioned, there's multiple uses for that. You know, just one use that I keep thinking right offhand is, I know every year we get contacted by members that live off the reservation that want to come home for a funeral or an event or something, and are asking us to get them rooms and whatever. But this would be an ideal location for them to stay while they come home for a while. But anyway, yeah, I just think we need to take a look at doing what we need to do to renovate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Janet.
So what are your recommendations regarding security out at Kicking Horse? If we do have issues with vandalism and that type of thing, after bringing more and more people out to the center at night and on, being there at night and on the weekends, is there funding to maybe set up a security program that could pretty much keep an eye on the center nights and weekends?
I think that's an opportunity for Dewar with their equipment and storage and expansion. I would look to that. I love the idea of having staff that work in any of the facilities also reside out there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge benefit for us at least at Blue Bay, to make sure that the housing facilities there were utilized by staff, and that just cut the vandalism down to nearly nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also think it would be easy to put up some security system of some type of at least video recording or alarm systems too. But I think when you have people living in the neighborhood and it's well lit, that's your first deterrent. Second deterrent would be camera systems, and then on-site continuous patrol. There's security firms we can use. There's travel member firms that are out there, but I think that that's always an issue for valuable equipment, valuable supplies, and we have all of that and all of that to be expanded, I think, at this compound. So it begs to have some type of security system that I think would be funded through some of the programs that have the most invested in those type of things, which would be Drewer, I would think. I don't know, Rick, I kind of look to you to think about that one, because it probably got to have it. And if you start putting people out there that are homeless or in need, then that just is additive to security interests.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ongoing cost, one of the challenges with, and honestly, the reason there's no longer a Job Corps center out there is the ongoing maintenance expenses. I was trying to remember, I think it was close to $600,000 a year of maintenance costs, and that was not keeping up with the needs, partially because of some of the design stuff, like the dorms could be good, but there's not a way without redoing the roof to prevent the leaking. From what I recall, there were heat tape and a bunch of fixes put into place over time, but it seemed like the pipes would always freeze and burst somewhat in the winter, and you'd have to address it. And so it's doable, but I think that's where the recommendation for demolition is coming from, is the long-term maintenance costs are pretty onerous, and just the maintenance work on it. And Janet, the other thing I was thinking of is, do you have any more background on, for council's benefit, on why the recommendation on the second page of your request form was not to have homeless housing out there?
It was basically due to the vandalism. That was one issue, but the second issue was the need for homeless people to be in town near services. And what Patty Hibbler had recommended is that if we're going to look at, housing the homeless, she'd prefer that type of housing be set up either here in Pablo or in Ronan, where we have land available. So the tribes did not get the permanent supportive housing grant to put in the new building west of the new clinic in Ronan. But if the tribal council wanted to do a tiny home village or something along those lines, or some type of housing for the homeless, or for people even with substance abuse issues, that would be the better location, because again, it's closer to services. So, the clinic, the health clinic, again, being able to get groceries, or, kids being able to walk to school, if they're living out there, those types of things. Same thing with this property southwest of Pablo. If that was developed, then again, that would be closer to services for people. So, and also for employment, if people are trying to get on their feet and they don't have good transportation, and DHRD's transportation usually just runs 4 days a week, it doesn't help people with their transportation needs to be out in a remote area like this. But that was the discussion that I heard, and so those are the reasons that Patty mentioned, and a few others agreed too.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. You know, I don't know, I was looking at Janet's numbers that were very thorough, how many people in each department, and then more on the way. I don't know. I just think something like if eventually some sort of a youth hostel, Len mentioned having space for people who come back, having space for people with emergencies, but designing it as a temporary space. But it could also be an opportunity when Bing and I have both worked out at Job Corps. And one thing that they had that was nice is they had a little commissary. So you could go and buy snacks during the day. So there's some opportunities for some micro businesses, small economic development, maybe creating a space for someone to be a contractor, to be out there. A tribal member might want to have a little coffee shop out there. Because I know when I worked at Kicking Horse, it's not that far from Ronan, but it's far enough that it was hard to go to Ronan to have lunch. You have to pack your lunch. It takes all your time to get into Ronan. You have to get through a drive-through and eat in your car to make your 30-minute lunch to go to Ronan and back from Kicking Horse. So, and then when I worked there, when we worked there, it had a cafeteria. So if you forgot your lunch, you could just go eat in the cafeteria. But I would think for the workers out there, it's not easy to get into town and back in a certain amount of time. And there could be an opportunity for a tribal member to have a little business out there, maybe doing a coffee shop with some light snacks or something for the people who work there. Thank you.
I remember just back in the day when we were, I could never understand some of the discussions they had. My father was on council. Building these communities outside of town, or housing developments where there was Clarice Paul or, ones I was familiar with. And, why aren't they just attached to the town? Why isn't it all walkable communities and making these small villages way out in the sticks? And then, people getting trapped out there. I mean, I haven't been able to, they don't have a car, and watching my friends walk all the way from, way out into DC all the way into town or something like that. I said, it's just too bad. How come these aren't all within walkable distances? And so you think about the future and those kind of issues, it certainly makes sense to be able to have services that are within walking distances for anything that's not emergency, I would say. So I would look at that dorm building, if it could be salvaged, to be as extremely temporary for unique situations. I think, like Len said, for visiting folks that have this, or a fire where it's a normal, they're going to go back to their house after they rebuild, that kind of thing. I would see how that might be doable. But I recall that I think the total power bill for Job Corps, when it was sitting almost vacant, was like $30,000 a month. I can't remember. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Amount of money to maintain just that kind of level of keeping it open. So, it is a big factor on what it costs us to have these satellite compounds and what it's going to cost us. So that's an important feature. What is sustainable? What can we afford? Jennifer?
Thank you. That's why I was thinking of a hostel, because they're very inexpensive to stay. When you go, you bring your own, sometimes you bring your own bedding, like you might bring your own sleeping bag and stuff like that, but it could just help offset some of the costs. Even if half the rooms were used as a hostel, half were reserved for emergency or tribal members who want to rent them out at a cheap rate. I've stayed at hostels before, and so affordable. I mean, you can stay, I don't know, $30 a night or $50 a night as opposed to 200 in the summertime. So it could also just generate a little bit revenue to help pay for those kinds of things, the electricity, the upkeep.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
So we don't have to answer questions in terms of is a building salvageable today. I think to still have a good outcome per Janet's request. What I'm hearing is the desire to if cost effective, have a some kind of a short-term shelter slash hostel, like whatever that ends up looking like. I think we could incorporate that into the master plan work. It doesn't mean that that's what's locked in. What all it would do is sort of give the path for doing the evaluations and then, you know, if the numbers don't work or if something comes up in the inspections, the master plan could still be valid. So it really is not specific to buildings per se. It's intended uses, and from a sewer system standpoint, it would mean sort of surge use. Would have to evaluate if there were 50 additional people potentially at one time, what impact would that have on the sewer system? So if you're okay, the feedback that I interpreted or heard was it should be designed as if there's going to be some kind of temporary housing or whatever you want to call it use there.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
You, Chairman. You know, another thing that it could be used for if there's, you know, if it's able to be rehabilitated and fixed up for some sort of temporary housing, it could also be used as a recruitment tool for doer. If they hire someone who doesn't have a place to live and they need time to find a place to live, they could potentially stay there for a little while until they find some place to rent or buy here, because the housing market is so tight.
You know, I really appreciate that comment because that goes across the board. It could be a healthcare professional, it could be a faculty at the college, it could be across the gauntlet of tribal professional and trade positions that there's no housing. That's true. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that should be part of that. Yeah, I mean, that's very legit. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
I was just curious, Rick, do you think we should take action to do what we said we're gonna do? Because a lot of times, like the bathhouse, it was gonna be ripped down and now it's still there after 20 years. I think just to give you the direction.
I mean, if the direction you want to give is get the request today was approval of the master plan. If you want to add on to that, the structural engineering assessment or rehab assessment for the dorms, that I think
I think that's all we're really talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can just add that on and approve your master plan.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, with that.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So one of the things we're gonna need, as Rick mentioned, was, so if the review of the dorms is such that it's feasible to upgrade them or fix them up to the point where they're habitable, maybe make some apartments for, different entities. So, you know, some families are gonna be larger, some are gonna be smaller, you know, there's cooking facilities that might need to be developed if you're bringing people in whose home burned down. Or if, you know, there's quite a bit of work that would have to be done, I would think, at those dorms in order to make them into like a hostel, suitable, facility versus, you know, housing, emergency housing. So I'm just trying to get a number of units that, and if, you know, Rick is saying 50 people, you know, maybe that would be enough. But typically, if you're going to be looking at a kitchen for people to use, because they, you know, are displaced from their homes, or trying to house individuals who are wanting to move here until they can find housing, I would think they'd want a small little kitchen and, you know, bathroom facilities that aren't group facilities like we see out at Kicking Horse right now. So I'm just trying to envision how many families we'd want to accommodate out there so that I can include that into the master plan. Because, you know, a household use is different than individual use like at a hostel. So, you know, not a household use, like I said, would include kitchen facilities, bathroom facilities, that aren't group facilities typically. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are there, but I'm just trying to get an overall number that I can talk to the engineer about.
Yeah, okay, Janet, go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I know that the hostels that I've stayed in, you did not have a private bathroom. It's like staying in a dorm. It's designed to be temporary. It's not like, you know, there's these suites in Missoula that are supposed to be like a home away from home. You know, it's a hotel room, but you have a kitchenette, you have your own everything. The hostels that I've stayed in were not like that, and that's why they were so cheap. It's exactly like staying in a college dorm. I had my own private room. I didn't have to share a room with anybody, but then I had to walk down the hall and there was like, you know, 15 bathrooms and like, you know, 15 shower stalls. You have a private shower, but you know, it was other people used it too, like a gym. It's like going to a gym.
Old style hotel.
Yeah.
Sure.
And,
Equal hot springs.
yeah, so that's what makes it so inexpensive and affordable, and it's designed to be temporary. Stay there for a little while, and they usually do provide a communal kitchen, some sort, but it's not designed to be your home for any extended period of time.
So would that be the same for like the emergency housing if somebody's home burns down? I mean, that can take 6 months to a year to get a home built. What I was wondering is these tiny homes that are being purchased from Platinum Sheds, if some of those could be put on these home site lots and then those be used for emergency housing, or if those could be used for doer employees that are looking to try to find a place to live. You know, I'm just trying to, if you're trying to bring people here, would they want to live in a hostile situation? Or would they prefer to be like even in a tiny home on a temporary basis? I'm just trying to envision so that I can help the engineer understand how many units we're building of each type. So for instance, would the one dorm just be like a hostel, you know, setup so individuals would share bathrooms, and then would we, like I say, order these tiny homes, or would we retrofit half of one of the dorms to be little apartments for families that are displaced or looking for housing? I'm just trying to get that idea. Or would you expect everybody to just live in that hostile environment where they share a bathroom?
Can we, as far as just the structural review by an engineer of the dorm buildings, we need to answer that today for them to be able to identify that.
I mean, I can ask them that question. I can try to get somebody here before the end of the month. You know, our deadline is the beginning of January for this master plan to be completed. So If I can get the structural engineer down here and if he can do the, analysis. Carol, the one I'm thinking of is, Jacola, that Carl Henshaw, he's the one who did the Morning Star. He did the plans for fixing up the Morning Star. I don't believe he worked on the clinic out in Ronan. So if that's acceptable to you, I can try to bring him down here, since his company's already on contract with us.
Excuse me, Janet, I would like to have a few of us involved so they kind of get, because, I don't even know if Janet understands the hostel.
I do.
That's not your fault, Janet. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying, I think I really like your idea of, the hostel. And I don't know too much about it either, but I think that's something that could be possibly doable. But yeah, I think if we're also able to talk to the structural engineer, not all of us, but
The other potential, and this was a Tony thing, and it was, I don't know if it was funding that we asked for, but when you talk about fire and fire staff, the hostile environment is exactly what they look for. So it's a dorm kind of situation, and the firefighters come in and it's temporary housing for fire events. That's the other, maybe a fit. Maybe there's funding that way for it. I don't know, but yeah. Clear enough, Rick?
Sure.
Sure.
We will have to have that distinction, or the question Janet ultimately was asking is, how many of what type, to anticipate to finish the master plan, but it just has to be big. I mean, we just have to make sure it's big enough.
Oh, yeah.
Like
What,
the sewer
what
system.
was the capacity of the dorms being when they were functioning? 66 altogether? Total residents?
I thought there was, I thought it was closer to 200.
There's 30 rooms and there were 8 beds in each room. There are 30 to 32 rooms in each dorm.
Yeah. And times 4. 8 rooms times 8. Okay. Okay. Well, we get the consensus to proceed, and yeah, master planning's a good tool. Appreciate the work you've done, and just an added consideration for the dorms. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just got one little curiosity. I'm wondering how much money did we sink into those old sewage lagoons just in the last year and a half?
Nothing in the lagoons. As far as, well, we did some engineering work to see if we could patch the lagoons. And then we found out that we couldn't because of the high water table. But all of the money that was spent, well, actually the lagoons were dredged. I take that back. They were dredged. And that's how we found out that the one didn't have proper lining. And then, so I'd have to break down how much it cost for dredging. I think it was, oh gosh, it seems like it was 100 and some thousand or 200,000, but and then the soils had to be moved off site and treated off site, and so that was all included. But that was an EPA requirement to get those lagoons dredged, so we were just complying with that requirement. And that's when we found out about the issue, when we did further investigation to try to patch the one lagoon. But most of the money went into replacing the water and sewer pipes on the campus itself. And that's where we were losing 5 times the amount of water that we're currently using now. The pump house was pumping a lot of water that was ending up in the crawl spaces of a lot of those buildings. And a lot of those buildings now, they are usable because that water is no longer leaking from those water pipes.
Thank you, Janet.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask though, do you want to consider adding the roads to the BIA road system, or would you want to keep those private tribal roads rather than making them public?
I would put them on the BI road system since it's given what the current plan is or the current providers out there. That's just me.
And if really the question is there an objection to it or is there a preference? Because if you want to, then we would engage the roads department to go through the evaluation and steps and make the request, but I think that would have a council action as part of it, so.
Yeah, I think they're part of the system for a lot of our other governmental buildings and structures, so I don't know why not. Any consensus? Yep, do the BIA, do their evaluation. Get on their system if you can.
Thank you. And are there any other council members who want to attend that field trip when I bring the structural engineer out to Kicking Horse to look at?
Oh, I'd love to look. I haven't been in those dorms since my friend was a residential counselor out there. Yeah, that was 45 years ago.
Okay. All right. So I'll make sure that you're available, you and Carol and anyone else.
Carol and Jennifer
And
Bing.
Janet, when you get it scheduled, might as well send it to the whole council in the group.
Okay. And Rick, are you interested also?
Yeah, I would send it to the whole group of
Okay.
people who
Okay.
were involved in the discussions prior to today too.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time and
Thank you.
keep moving forward. All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I think our next item will be an executive.